All right, let's get started. Again, thank you to everyone that's taken some time to join. I do appreciate it. It makes things a lot easier to be able to communicate as a group and solve whatever issues that people may be experiencing as a group. I will go through my little spiel here for what's going on and what's going on in the next week or so. If you have questions, feel free to jump in, audio, video, or in the chat. I've got the chat box open. I'll read anything out loud in the chat just for posterity so that someone that's watching the video, they can't see the chat. So I will read questions out of the chat just in case you wonder why I'm doing that. That's why. So this week, we're really getting into the first, I'll call it the first real week of the course, in that we've got a chapter to read. So everyone should be able to see under course content, chapter 1. So we've got a few learning outcomes, and what's required is to read chapter 1, watch the chapter 1 video lecture. So that's my lecture that I've set up, and it says right in the required that it's not intended to replace the reading, but to supplement it. If you rely on my lectures for all the information, and maybe you don't want to buy the book, or you want to buy the book, but you don't want to read the book, whatever, you're going to miss an awful lot of content. What I try and do with the lectures is explore some of the topics, maybe present topics in a different way that you may not, in case you didn't understand the way the book phrased something, give you some context or give you a different way to look at it. If you have to skip one or the other, skip my lectures. That's absolutely crucial. The book is the source of the course, and it is where all the questions and the quizzes are going to come out of. It's also where the majority of the questions in the exam are going to come out of. So the book is key. I have enabled live transcription. I will start doing that in the future so that everyone has that. What I do, just as an aside, sorry, I'm taking a slight side route here. I do put the video through YouTube and let them do a transcription or a closed captioning on it for people that are watching it afterwards. But I will certainly do live transcription in the future. I didn't think to do that. So yeah, going back to what I was saying about the textbook, it is the source of essentially all the information. I would encourage you to watch my videos. I put a lot of effort into them and trying to make them useful for everyone. But if you are short of time, or you just enjoy reading and you're good at assimilating information by reading, please do that. There's nothing in my lectures that's going to be tested on quizzes or exams that is not in the book. Okay, so I think I've probably said that, but sometimes bears repeating. So don't rely on my lectures without the book. So chapter 1 quiz is due on Friday. This is only going to be available if you've done your academic integrity module, got it submitted and marked as a 1 out of 1, and the course requirements quiz. And I'm not sure if there's 24 questions or 22. There's 24 questions. Yep. Okay. Thanks, Lauren. 24 questions there. You need 24 out of 24. So I'm going to break down into two different things. The most common mistake on the academic integrity module is in giving me a screenshot without your name on it. So some people just cropped it out too much, or they've sent me one from their phone or whatever, and it doesn't have their name. So you get a half out of 1 if you looked at your grade in your grade center, and there'll be a comment saying, I need your name in the screenshot. I'm not looking for you to take that screenshot and Photoshop your name into it. I'm looking for a screenshot that includes your name. Okay. So most people got that, but that's the biggest single error. Probably, let's say 15 to 20% of submissions didn't have their name on it. So that is, by the way, right in the question. Read my questions carefully, please, and anyone's questions. As a as a bit of advice, and I recognize most of you have been around for a bit. This isn't your first rodeo by any stretch. Before I submit anything, I always read the question one last time and make sure that what I'm submitting satisfies all the requirements. That'll enable you to do well in discussions. It'll enable you to do well in term papers. It'll enable you to do well in general. And it's often a matter of just putting an extra sentence in sometimes, something to just satisfy the need so that you can get full marks for it. In the case of the screenshots, I need your name. So please do. If you can't see the quizzes already and you think you've submitted an acceptable academic integrity and a course requirements that's perfect, take a look in your grade center and see why you're not seeing it, because you should be able to see the quiz now for week 1 or chapter 1, however I've named it. The course requirements quiz, the biggest single hang up there is people having trouble with the APA formatting. I've had quite a few questions about that. I'm happy to give little hints, but the whole purpose of me including that is so that you go out and understand what APA looks like. APA formatting is going to be required in your discussions, every single discussion. It's also going to be required in term papers and things like that. So it's important that you understand APA. I'm not super strict about it, but I do like it to be done pretty close to correct. For instance, in discussions, if you don't italicize the proper, whether that's the name of the paper or whatever, I'm not worried about that. If you don't have the hanging indent in discussions, I don't care about that either. But I do need all the information that allows me to check your source if you say something outrageous or unusual or new to me, so that I can see where you got that information from. When we get to things like term papers, you do want to have the hanging indent, and you want to take the time to do the proper italicization and that sort of thing, but not so much in the discussions. So yeah, those are the two things that have to be done in order for you to see the quiz. Like I said, if you've done them and got good marks, like perfect marks, then you should be able to see the quiz now. You probably noticed that, depending on when you looked at it, you may have noticed that everything came available in the middle of the night. So as soon as it became midnight on Friday night, all your chapter 1 stuff, this week's stuff, should have become available, so that you've got a chance to work on it this weekend before the week even starts. Okay. And then the last thing in the requirements in chapter 1 course content is discussion 1, post 1 is due by Friday. So let's talk about that. The requirements, and if you, first of all, where you find that, let me just pull my menu back up. If you look in underneath general discussions, if you look at groups, bracket topics, you should be able to see a group that you're a member of. It'll say discussions, and it'll have a 2-digit number starting with 01 or as high as 12. So everyone should be assigned to a group. If you click on that, and I'm just following along as I do it, you click on the discussions group that you have available, you'll see 3 things: group tools, group properties, and group assignments. Up to 3 things. I don't really know what you're going to see. Under group tools is the group discussion board. You click on that and you will see a question right there. So it starts with for corporations and government bodies, digital forensic investigators, et cetera, et cetera. Read through it, understand it, maybe read it a couple of times, make sure you fully understand it. For this week or for this discussion, we're not going to get super technical. You guys haven't yet learned a lot about the technical end of digital forensics, so it's more of a general. I'm not expecting you to research and figure out what tools and what specific artifacts or anything like that. Answer the question with the knowledge that you have and a bit of research without worrying about being too technical. At the end, once you've done your post, and your post is going to be 500 to 700 words. If you look in the instructions, you'll see it's 500 to 700 words long. It will contain 3 or more supported sources. So you will cite it. You will, within the body of your text, you'll put a citation in there pointing down to one of the references that you've got in your reference list at the end of your post. People ask me, do you count the citation in the word count? Do you count the reference list in the word count? I don't care. I don't count the word count that carefully. What I use it for is I have an idea of how much content I'm expecting to see. So if you try and answer one of my questions in 250 words, it's just not going to be enough content. You might be able to do it in 450, and that's great. That's fine. Somewhere around 500 to 700. If you give me 2,000 words, that's going to be too much for sure, as is probably 1,000 or 1,100. So just somewhere in the 500 to 700 words, with or without counting citations. I don't really care one way or the other. It's important that you get the 3 supporting sources at least. If you have less than that, you start losing marks. I would suggest that you look at the rubric. There is a rubric that's available for that. I'm honestly not sure where you would find that, to tell you the truth. I'll have to investigate that. I'll maybe post where to find the rubric, but the rubric's very specific. It tells you how many marks are for, actually, I could share the rubric on my screen. Give me a moment here. This could take me just a second. I know the rubric would be available, but I'm just not sure where, in your view, that it is. So bear with me while I share my screen. Edit rubric. Here we go. Okay, so this is the rubric from my view. So we've got content worth 60% of your mark, and then I've got these columns that like it's just a checkbox for me. I've got columns from negligible to, I think it's more than proficient, to expert. Maybe drag this out, see if we can see some more. Yeah, there we go. So for instance, a content that's marked as competent is basic quality. This will all be shown in the rubric when you look at it. Basic quality that requires some improvement to substance accuracy, analysis, etc. So if you don't make a ton of good points, or you don't have a lot of meat to your argument, you're going to move in that direction from expert towards competent. Then there's 15% for references and citations. These are easy marks. Perfect is 3 or more perfect citations and references, and even perfect is maybe overstating it a bit. If it generally looks an awful lot like APA, and you have 3 or more of them, they're cited in the body of the text, and they're listed in the reference, you're gonna end up with perfect, or very, very close to it. As we go to the left, down from skilled to proficient to competent, if you have 2, so if you have only 2 cited references, then you're already down to the competent level. So some errors, or only 2 provided in proper format. If you don't cite at all, you're going to get a 0. You're going to get negligible in that category. The point being that you can list your references, but then I'm stuck guessing what reference was used for what information. So if I have something I want to look up, or something that's unusual or seemingly wrong to me, I can't actually look it up and see where you got it, and see if you misinterpreted what you read, or if it's something I don't know. I mean, I don't claim to know everything about digital forensics. Maybe you found something that seemed like a good reference that contradicts something that I think, or that my experience tells me, in which case I don't want to mark you down for it if you have properly cited it. Presentation is just grammar. grammar, spelling, using paragraphs. Please don't kill me with blocks of text. I say this for myself and the workshop leaders that'll be marking this. If you don't use paragraphs, it makes it really, really, really hard to read. So you'll lose presentation marks there. Read through your stuff, make sure you get grammar pretty good at the very least, and don't lose a lot of marks for presentation. And then at the bottom, there's timeliness. Timeliness is a component of the content mark. But if you are late on your first submission, so the one that's due this Friday coming, you will get 0 out of the 10%. You're able to submit it anytime you want. I'm just encouraging everyone to get their first post in. I'm going to stop sharing. I'm just encouraging people to get their first post in so that other people who have to respond to it next week have a chance to read what you've had to say and digest it. So that's kind of the purpose for what I'm doing there. That's why I have 2 deadlines on the discussion. So the first Friday, which is this Friday coming up, is when your first post is due. The second post, which is a response to a peer, it's the same requirements, 500 to 700 words, 3+ cited sources, cited and reference sources. Everything is the same for the first post versus the second, except you're responding to either the question that your peer has added in the first post or the post itself. It's very much harder to agree with someone and get good content marks than it is to disagree. I'm not trying to make everyone disagree with everything. But if you want to agree, if you see a post and you think that's a darn good post, I agree with what that person has said, and I want to comment in that direction, that's fine. But to get content marks, extend their argument. Give me more information. Don't just repeat what they've said. Don't just say, yes, that's a great post, fellow student. Go ahead and say, I really liked what you said about this, and move on. The initial post should not be in first person. Even if I ask you for your opinion, avoid first person. The second post, if you can avoid first person as well. It's less critical to me. The first post is more like an essay. It's a little mini essay. It should be in an academic third person passive. So instead of saying, I think the grass is green, you would say the grass is green and then cite your source that proves that. Okay, so everything's a statement. It may be your opinion, but you're supporting it to make it fact. Okay, so that's what we're looking for. Now, the workshop leaders and I will mark after you've handed in both these. So we don't mark them until both posts are handed in, and it closes a week from Friday. We are dedicated to getting you feedback quickly so that discussion 2, you have more information. What I find, unfortunately, is a lot of students don't read our feedback and they do the same things over and over again. So if you do that, you're going to not be happy with the results because you're not going to get any better marks. You're going to get the same, whatever mistakes you're making or whatever deficiencies you might have, that's going to carry on. If you do, most people that do react to feedback, by the time they get to the end of the course, they're getting the last couple or few discussion posts are getting perfect on. The standard's not that high. We're not, it's not that granular in the rubric. If you post something interesting with good material and it's properly cited and spelled properly, you're going to do really, really well. Okay. I think, so that's the discussion post. There's always confusion amongst students with discussion posts. So I do try and give a few different ways of understanding what's going on. That's why I spent so much time on it now. I hope I've covered most of the discussion questions. I see that I've got a few chat questions, so I'm going to just go through those for a second. When I met with an academic advisor, they used different APA format with name, year, page number, or name, year. So which is better for you? So I don't require page number. Typically in APA format, if you're doing a word for word quote, you put in page numbers. If you are just quoting from a source, you don't need a page number. I would further encourage people not to overuse quotes. That's a common comment that I make in a lot of discussion posts and a lot of papers. It's really, if you read it, like I read a lot of papers in a given year, obviously, if you read papers regularly, you'll find it painful to read something with too many quotes in it. So one's good and optional at that, right? So if you can paraphrase as opposed to quote, reserve your use of quotes for absolutely incredible, well-known quotes or things that are said so perfectly well that you can't paraphrase it and carry the same impact. So avoid them if you can. If you do a quote, you are supposed to use the page number. I'm not super strict about that either, okay? What's the minimum number of sources for the term paper? So we haven't really talked about the term paper, but I'm happy to. The term paper is a minimum of 10 sources. So you want to have at least 10 sources. That could be 20 citations. Like it's not unusual to it could be 30 citations. So 3 citations per source. It's not unusual once you have a source to cite it multiple times. So that's your minimum number of sources. That will all be explained. We'll go through that like a long time from now as we get closer to the end. I'm going to try and release the topics for you to take a look at and choose, but there will be specific instructions, just like I have instructions at the bottom of my discussion. I also have very clear instructions at the bottom of my term papers, but it is, I think, 1,500 words. Bear with me and I will check that too. So you're going to join a group. It's not a group project. You're going to join a group that just determines what topic you're going to have. It allows us to effectively market. We'll divide topics amongst myself and the workshop leaders, and I will mark, say, all of topic 1 and all of topic 2. And that way, when people question marking, and that happens, and often legitimately, like if we make a mistake or whatever, I will know who marked your paper, and I'll be able to either take another look myself or assign someone else to look at it to be fair. I'm not afraid. I like to be transparent. I'm not afraid to take a look at things once the student has digested the feedback that we've given. I'm not marking everything twice just for the fun of marking everything twice. That's not happening. But if you have a legitimate concern, like if, say, the comment says you didn't have 10 sources, but you know you had 10 sources, then, come back to me and we'll certainly talk about that. Your paper must be in Word format. I'll harp on that a little more later. It is 1,200 to 1,500 words. So it's a formal paper, meaning, again, that third person passive academic tone. No I believes or I wish or in my opinion, none of that. And 12 to 1,500 words. Now that's not very long. So what's going on with this submission is that hopefully you get started on it fairly quickly. You write 2,200 words and you distill it down to the 1,500 that matter. So there's a lot of revision that goes into this. That's why I've made that revisions or editing video from Academic Skills available. The best papers are definitely going to be written and revised multiple times to get down to the meat, and there will be no what I'll call fat. There'll be no wasted descriptive phrases. There'll be no redundancies. There'll be no just slack in the wording. So 12 to 1,500 words carries its own challenges to get to cover the topic fully. People are going to make the mistake of waiting until the last week and go, I can write 12 or 1,500 words. Sure, you can, but it's not going to be the same quality as the person that gets a good head start and does several edits on it. So that's for now. I'll leave the term paper as a subject. Will the questions for the discussions be based on the chapter for the week? No, they will not. So the discussions are designed to broaden your perspective, to get outside the book, to talk about, hopefully for some of you at least, interesting stuff. I think I said in the first office hours, this is my favorite course. This was my life for 10 or 12 years. I really like this stuff. I try to bring some of my experience into the discussions. I did the investigations that we're talking about in discussion 1 are ones that I did for a few years for the Ontario government. They monitor their own people to make sure they're not wasting time on the computer, et cetera, et cetera. So hopefully you can use the text as a reference if you want, as one of your citations, but it's probably not that relevant in general. So the rubric can be found for us under, if you go to my grades, perfect. Okay, thank you very much. So the rubric for the discussions, if you go to my grades, it's under the discussion title there. Thank you for telling me that. Syllabus says we should make 2 postings for each discussion. So does that mean 2 separate responses per week? Or does that mean we make 1 500 to 700 word response plus 1 reply to a peer's response? The second. So you make 1 response per week. We've got 2 separate weeks of submissions due, post 1 and post 2. The first post is your response to my question. By the way, you shouldn't be able to see your peer's response when you do that. The idea is that you post, and once you've posted, then you can see everyone else's. I have done this a long time, and when I started in 2014 doing this, what would happen was that I would get all different flavors of the first couple people's response. It wasn't necessarily intentional, but if the first couple people had a crappy response or went down the wrong way, then the whole group followed them down that path. So that's all I'm trying to do there. So yeah, so 2 separate responses of 500 to 700 words, 1 each week. For someone who has never taken any computer science courses or even anything related to forensics, how hard would this course be? Do we need any background knowledge for it? So no, I don't think you need a lot of background knowledge. It's obviously going to help you the more sort of competent or experienced you are with computers. This isn't a high level technical course. There's going to be some technical components to it. We're going to talk about hexadecimal a little bit. We're not going to do any math or anything like that. The old version of the course. So I used to work for Brian Hercock, who still teaches this course in the summer times. I've taken over the course during the winter from him for the last probably 3 or 4 years. He always did some encryption math. He did some hexadecimal conversion, maybe adding and subtracting. I don't do any of that. So I'm much more interested in what the artifacts usually in Windows are, what a log might mean, or where we would find evidence of this type or that type. I'm much more sort of technical in terms of from the forensic examiner's approach. That at the end of this course, with a little bit of luck, you will understand what it would be like to arrive on a crime scene, extract data, take that data back to the lab, analyze that data, write a report, and understand and be able to, in theory at least, testify in court and say this is what the bad guy did. Okay, so that's kind of the goal of the course. And the final exam has scenario questions to see how well you've assimilated. So yeah, as we put the components together, we're going to walk through various types of evidence, theories of forensic science, and then we're going to end up with writing reports and how a report. I won't ask you to produce a report. That's not going to be part of this. We run into a problem. I'd love to have some software and let you play around with this stuff and see what it looks like. We have to contend ourselves with screenshots and stuff from my lectures. The software is incredibly expensive and no one seems inclined to give students a break on it. So we haven't found anything that we can provide, and the school's very reluctant to charge students an extra fee for software, like, an extra $50 or $100 to buy a license for a term. So for this week's discussion, when you say research the following scenarios, do you want us to find articles of previous cases or just sources that explain the offense? For example, the criminal code. So let me get back to my proper subject here. So what I really want, so the four different sort of areas that we're going to look at, and I'm just asking you to pick one of these four. A company may be a victim of the crime or violation. A company-owned computer may be used in the commission of the crime violation. A company-owned computer may be used to store contraband material. So that's things like child pornography. That's what we're specifically talking about there. Contraband material could also be downloaded movies, for instance, that were copyright protected. But normally in the land of digital forensics, contraband material is child sexual exploitation material. You're not even supposed to say child pornography. I'm just stuck in old-fashioned speak. So it's explicit sexual material with children involved. Employees may violate company policy through the improper use of company resources. So pick one of those and just do a little bit of research. My question about, how can this become criminal? Like when you're doing an investigation and say I'm employed by the same company that you work for, and I'm investigating you. That's not a criminal investigation. That's a civil investigation. The types of penalties that you're faced with if there's a finding of a problem is you may be dismissed or you may be written up by HR, right? That's not a criminal. You're not going to jail. You're not paying a fine. You're not doing any of those kinds of things. So what could I find on a computer in the course of one of those investigations that would escalate to a criminal offense? That's part of the question. So yeah, pick a scenario, maybe run that wording through a definition and understand what I'm talking about there. There will be articles about the different kinds of internal investigations out there. And then just take a look at how that could escalate to becoming a criminal offense. Figure out how the sneaky bad employee is going to hide their tracks. How you think that. This is where I'm not looking for, there are specific ways, obviously, that I know. I'm not looking for, down to the bits and bytes and software that they might use. But how would you, if you were, often it's best to put your mind in the bad guy's mind. So if I'm going to, for instance, run my own business on the company's time, how am I going to hide that from my supervisor? How am I going to hide that so that no one knows that I'm doing that? Because that's pretty obviously unethical and probably against every company policy going. I know when I was with the Ontario government, we had people that were full-time employed that were running their real estate operation out of the government computers, right? So they're getting email, they've got a website that they're tuning up, they're posting things, that, all sorts of things like that. So put yourself in the bad guy's mindset. How are they going to try and hide it from you? And then reverse the role, and how are you going to find it? How are you going to get around whatever game they're playing? Because it really is a cat and mouse game, right? Any sort of technological investigation, whoever's got the best technology has the advantage. So this is still, at the end of the day, this is a 500 to 700 word discussion post that's designed to put some ideas out there and spark discussion amongst your peers. So I don't really mark things right or wrong. If you say ridiculous things and don't support them, then you're not going to get good content marks. But usually, as long as you have a good argument and you answer my questions, you're going to do just fine in the content, which is worth up to 70% of the mark altogether. How many words should the reply post be? Exactly the same, absolutely exactly the same as the original. 500 to 700 words. There's no difference in the requirements between the original post and the reply post. It says that right in the instructions. Are digital forensic reports really 1,000 pages? Just wondering. And how fast would you have to produce that material for court? So yes, they are. The problem, so we have some really good software, and hard drives are really, really big. They have a lot of information in them, right? So I don't think I've done a 1,000-page one, but I've certainly done 800-page ones. What you do, and we'll cover this, is your actual report's probably 15 pages. It's almost an executive summary of everything that follows. And then all the artifacts are behind that. So you would refer, see Appendix C2, whatever, and go that way. So yeah, there's an awful lot of information in digital forensic reports. The secret to being a good digital forensic investigator, one that ends up in court, is being able to simplify and speak at the level of the people that are listening to you. And that's probably really true for any expert at any time in any courtroom. You can talk over everyone, you're an expert, but if the judge and the jury, if there is a jury, can't understand it, then you're wasting your time. So the absolute best forensic people are the people that can make it palatable or understandable to their audience, whoever that may be. If you're talking to another digital forensic investigator, you can get all techie and happy with all that. But if you're talking to a judge, they can barely open a laptop. And that unfortunately is the truth. About 9 in 10 of them wouldn't know where the power on switch is on their own laptop. So you have to, that's a bit of a segue, but yeah, you've got a report, you've got a lot of artifacts backing that. You would bring that report with you to court, you get it admitted as evidence, and then you would refer to it as you're making your explanation. Okay.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
No, I just said thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. Good question. Is there anything else? I'm scrolling through the chat. I don't see anything that I've missed. If I haven't fully answered, feel free to jump in here. For the textbook, the link to Amazon is a Kindle book. Do you need Kindle for that? I've never used Kindle before. So there's an app. You don't need a Kindle device for it. There is, what's it called? read.amazon.ca, I think, which will allow you on a normal laptop or whatever. And then there's also apps for your mobile device. So no, you don't need a Kindle, but you will have access. It happens to be a Kindle book. Kindle books are generally high quality. They've got some nice features built in. I think you'll like the way it presents. Professor, I think I missed the part where you said how many words for the reply post. So 500 to 700 words, exactly the same requirements as the original post. I do appreciate, I've come to expect fairly low attendance for these sorts of things in the past. And what that really means is that there's a lot of questions that come in by email that I unfortunately have to reply, or I do reply. I guess I could answer all the questions. I reply saying, watch the office hours. So I will put this video up. Anyone that doesn't have a chance to attend for whatever reason, don't worry. I always put up within about 24 hours. It'll probably be shorter today because I don't have real work that I have to, get through. It's early in the term and everything. So I will get them up right away. What is the average mark in the course usually? So let me qualify first of all. Usually the average mark is in the 70s. That includes everyone. So that includes the person that gets a 1% or even a 0%. They never attend. They never actually do anything in the course. I think the more interesting sort of demographic to look at is how many people get over 80% in the course. That's kind of a threshold. There's always a solid, what would I say, 20%, 20 to 25% of people will get over 80% in this course, assuming everything goes as it has for all the years that I've done this. There'll be the biggest bulk will be people between 70 and 80. And then you'll have a bit in the 60 to 70, 50 to 60, and typically about 15% of people fail the course. Like I said, half of those people don't even ever sign in. They're just a name on a roster. They never actually sign into the course. I am consistent and maybe not the friendliest person. If you manage to get yourself a 48 in the course, I'm not going to give you a 50. I'm also not going to give someone that gets a 63 a 65 because that's what you need or that's what you think you deserve. I'm happy to look at marks as we go. No problem whatsoever. I will reevaluate anything that you have a legitimate reason to think that we've made a mistake on. I don't arbitrarily give marks. I don't bell curve. If everyone in this course got 60% for some reason, I mean, I'd be shocked, first of all, but I wouldn't change those marks. So that's kind of the way it is. I usually find when I get those, and I usually get them about 2 weeks after marks are have been posted and given to the administration, which is after I can do anything about it anyways. Can I, sir, I really need a 65 or whatever the excuse is. I look through and I see, oh, you missed half the discussions, and oh, you didn't bother doing 3 weeks of quizzes. Like, these little guys add up. If you need a 65 or you need a 70 or an 80 or whatever the number is, just get it. Just do the work to get there. It is that easy. I love to answer questions, especially on the subject matter for this course. So I'm happy to help. I will do one-on-one Zooms if needed. And I say that with a bit of caution because there are 334 people, I think, in this course. I cannot do one-on-one Zooms with 334 people, obviously, but if you need help, please reach out. We'll figure something out. It won't be because I don't get back to you that you're going to fail this course. I guarantee that. I will help in any way I can within the constraints that I have to live within, right? So hold on one second, Jay. I'm just going to look at the chat and I will get right to you. When we're addressing you in an email, do you want to be Professor Reed or something else? Professor Reed, Andy, all these things are fine. I'm not stuck on formality. I am not a doctor. I have a master's degree, not a doctorate. I will get a doctorate at some point, and then I'll ask the first year that I have one, everyone can call me Dr. Reed, and then we can go back to Andy. So that's not happening anytime soon. So yeah, Andy is fine. Yeah, if you're going to be rude, abrasive, aggressive, whatever with me, you might want to start with Mr. Reed or Professor Reed or Professor. That's not a friendly way. Don't call me Andy and then crap all over me, please. And that does happen periodically. I think I probably talked in office hours 1 about proper escalation. Give me a chance to solve whatever problem you think there is. I will try and respond quickly, and this may be to my detriment. I will respond from my mobile device, and my responses from my phone in, like, say 10 o'clock at night are going to be short. It's not meant to be curt. It's certainly not passive aggressive, as I've been accused of. I'm aggressive. That's my personality type. So don't read too much into it. I will try and be clear. And I'm trying to do that a little less because I find that there is confusion. Email is an imperfect way to communicate. Obviously, you can't see my face. You can't see my expression. There's no body language to read or anything like that. Assume that when I respond to you that I'm responding in a genuine way. And if it doesn't make sense, ask me another question, please, and we'll get through it. So I'm saying this as a result of a bad experience, not with someone in this class, but someone escalated immediately to the wrong person. So when you escalate before I've had a chance to solve the issue, the person you escalate to just sends me an email and says, can you deal with this? That's all that happens, right? So if you've got a response from me and we've gone back and forth and you're just not happy, certainly escalate. Dr. Richard Hurley is who I report to. He's the person that runs, that administers this course, or his department administers this course. He's the next person up. If you go straight to the president of the university, or you go, to the dean or whatever, they're also just going to move it down so that you go through the right channels. I'm not trying to stop anyone from talking to anyone. I don't care. I'm just telling you how to efficiently resolve your issues if you perceive them. And honestly, it's really rare. I try and respond promptly and fairly to everyone. So for this week's discussion, we need to complete the response before Friday. Yes. Starting next week, we need to complete the reply post for the previous week's response, plus discussion post before the Friday deadline. So this week there's one post. That's your response to my question. Next week, there's only one post, and that's the response to either your peer's question or their post. So this week is response to me, next week's response to peer. I lost my hand up, so I think he may have signed off. So, oh, Jay, are you still there? And did you still have a question?
Yeah, I did. It was about in the discussion you had saying that it doesn't have to be highly technical, but it has to be accurate.
Yes.
What does that mean?
Don't make crap up.
Oh, okay.
Simply, there's a percentage of people that will leave this until 11:30 on Friday, and they'll go, "Oh no, I gotta get this in," and they'll just try and baffle me with baloney. Let's leave it at that. So yeah, it has to be accurate. Research what you say. Like if you're going to say something besides sort of common knowledge or whatever, if you're going to make a statement, make sure it's true. It doesn't have to be. You don't have to go way down into the technical journals or anything, but make sure what you're saying is true. Okay.
Okay, because you mentioned how we have to describe specifically 2 examples of what the fences could be. So yes. Is it understood that you know what the fences are, or do we have to define them?
I'll leave that up to you. I'll give you all sorts of latitude, as long as you deal with all the questions where you focus or what you sort of dig deeper into. I'll leave that entirely up to you. Like I said, there's no right answer specifically for this. As long as you outline a scenario, tell me, what it is you think the person could be doing, how that escalates, and how they're trying to fool you as an investigator, and how you're trying to trip them up as a someone that's doing something wrong. All
okay,
right?
because I think you mentioned, I wasn't really sure. I had to get some coffee. I'm tired. That we get our feedback after this. We do both, the first post and then the reply.
That's right.
So only then we can talk to you about where you went wrong, or
Sure. Yeah, I'm going to give you detailed. Myself and the team, like the workshop leader team, are going to give you lots of detail. If you read the feedback, it should be clear enough, hopefully, that you understand exactly where you went wrong, if anywhere, right? So,
okay.
Well, things that, the common feedback is going to be stuff like avoid using first person. Use 3 or more cited references. You have to cite your references. You can't just list your references. Those are the kinds of things that, we've got 334. I've had, say, 300 students doing discussions for 8 years now that I've done, something like that. I've seen an awful lot of posts, and no matter how many times I say it or how explicit my instructions are, there's going to be people that just don't put any references in there. They just don't. And that's going to cost them a lot of marks. That also, if you don't put references in, it's hard to get good content marks because you're not supporting any of your statements, right? So,
right. Okay, that makes sense. See, my problem is that I always put in quotes, and then I'm not used to doing paraphrasing, so I have to watch the video.
break that habit immediately.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you need one quote, limit yourself to one quote, no more than one quote. And if you can go 0, I would strongly, strongly recommend it.
Okay. I'll just rewatch the video you have for the referencing for APA.
Yeah, and the editing one.
Yeah.
Editing one.
Do
Yeah.
that. Because you said when you're submitting, you said to make sure you check before submitting, because when you copy and paste from Word, because I usually make mine in Word and then I'll just copy and paste, but the formatting's off, right?
Specifically, Blackboard is evil.
Right. Yeah.
It likes to reformat anything you paste in that's formatted. So you have a couple choices.
Okay.
You could do it within Blackboard. You could compose your whole thing within Blackboard, but then if something happens, if it times out or whatever, you lose it all. And that really sucks. So I wouldn't do that. I would build my response in Word, and then I would copy and paste it into something like Notepad that strips all of the formatting from it. It'll take all the bolds, all the, everything from it. Then I would paste that unformatted text into Blackboard, and I would reformat it in Blackboard. That's how I would do it.
Okay, thank you. That sounds better. Yeah.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Professor Reed.
How many peers should we respond to? So just respond to one peer. Read a few at least, and find someone that either has said something exciting, or someone that said something that you don't believe or that you can disprove, or you have a different view on. Like as a group of people, as a group of almost 350 people, we've got a whole wide range of ways of looking at the world. We've got everything from the people in here that think no one should ever be jailed, and that I don't know, maybe even possessing images should not be against the law. That's a freedom of information. I'm exaggerating a bit, to the people that think everyone should be jailed if they jaywalk, right? So we've got a whole range. So you're going to see people state things that you don't believe. Doesn't necessarily make them wrong, but it can give you an interesting discussion. And that's what we're looking to stimulate, is respond to those. You only need to respond to one person, but do make a good, solid, well thought out and well supported argument to that person, whether it's in agreement or whether it's in disagreement or a combination thereof. All right. The library has great help for APA and citing. Yeah, they sure do. The academic skills people in general are awesome. And if you're having trouble, please use that. The video that we have is really, really, really strong. And the link that I provided is my go-to link when I don't know how to cite something, right? Like when I write a paper and I need APA formatting, I don't necessarily remember off the top of my head how to cite a video. I can do authors and journal articles and stuff like that because I've done it so much, but use that. I think it's the Purdue OWL that I've given you the link to, and it's excellent. It kind of covers just about every scenario you can think of. And at the end of the day, I'm really not that hard to get along with, as long as you're close. Here's another thing I should probably mention. There are automated tools out there that will try and tell you what your APA citation looks like. I'm not talking about the one that's on Google Scholar. That one's essentially perfect. There are other tools that will try and do it. Read what it spews out, because it's usually garbage, or it's half the time it's garbage. So use it as a starting point, but it'll often pick the wrong thing for the author completely, right? It'll just make something up. So please don't trust those tools to do everything properly. Review them. I'm not sure if I'm going to pronounce your name correctly. Hadia or Hadia?
Hadia, you got it right.
Hadia?
You got it right.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Hey, so first of all, I just got enrolled in this class recently.
Yep.
So I did my first lecture, which I still have to watch.
Yep.
But so our first quiz is due on Friday, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And there's 24 questions, and it's all multiple choice.
So there's a couple things going on. There's the academic integrity module that you have to submit showing that you've done the academic integrity module. It's just a screenshot. And then the other thing that you have to do is a course requirements quiz. That was last week's stuff to do. It's still available to you. Just work your way through that. That's the 24 question one.
Okay.
I don't remember off the top of my head whether it's 20 or 25 questions or what it is for our weekly quizzes, but it's all the same number, whatever that is.
Okay. And it's like timed like 1 hour. How long do we get again?
There's no limit on any of those. So
Okay, good.
yeah, absolutely no limit at all.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome. Folks, I've got about 3 minutes before I go on to the next course, office hours. I'm happy to entertain any questions. If you don't have any more questions, carry on with your Saturday. Have a great weekend, and we'll do this again next week. If you do, I'll address for the next couple minutes, and I'll have to get you to email me beyond that. Thanks very much. Thanks for coming.
Thank you, Professor. Have a nice day.
Yeah, you as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome, guys. See ya.